always forget to do that.
Very important. And the podcast has started, so let's just keep going. I don't even know where I'm going to start it from, but we'll keep going. So the years of progress they've made, writing the code, figuring out how the neural net should work and stuff. So there's no hardware limitation to run this stuff. It's all software, is what it sounds like, right? Like hardware is not really a problem. It's all software.
Yeah.
Under any scenario, really.
Yep.
That's insane. So then what's the breakthrough? Just better language models? That's it?
Yeah, just better architecture of the neural net, and then better training, better data. Like that's a huge part of it, is just continuing to clean up, because that's really I think one of the biggest parts, from what I understand about training these neural nets, is that like they're kind of playing around at the architecture level, and there's a variety of different approaches that they can take in the way that it's made, which is kind of all collapsing. Like they had, there were RNNs, which are recursive neural nets, and then CNNs, which are the convolutional neural nets, and then long short LSTMs, long short something. But anyway, there's like a whole bunch of different approaches to constructing the neural net, that a lot of them, like they would have a domain that they worked in. So like image, you would use one set of techniques, and video you would do something else, and then for natural language you would do something else. And then what I think basically Google made the breakthrough that transformers, these GPTs, general purpose transformers, are so good that they can do all of the things that all the other architectures could do before them, as well as those architectures, or better.
Okay.
With less space. And so now like all the different fields of machine learning are collapsing down, and now they're all using GPTs, which means they're all cranking on how to do GPTs better. So instead of having, if you had like the entire academic field of machine learning split into at least 10 different like silos of application and strategy and architecture, and they would each make progress, but that wouldn't necessarily translate to people in other silos. Now like everybody is working on the exact same architecture, and it's working for everybody. And so when someone comes up with a breakthrough in one area, it's easily scaled across all the other domains. And so that's been like, now you've just 10x'd your mind share of really smart people that are working on the problem, and that's why it's just all of a sudden exploded. And so that's like a lot of the GPT stuff is what has started to, Tesla knew that, and that's, version 11 was trying to get more and more of the code over to using these GPT neural nets.
So they were ahead of the game, kind of like, and is that why you think they were so confident that vision would work, is because of that? Or is it two separate sort of things?
My sense on that is just that that's Elon's core conviction based on like physics and evolution. Like
humans have two eyes.
Yeah, if humans can do it with two eyes, like you can't solve. Well, especially once he realized that you do have to solve a type of general intelligence. Like you are an object interacting with other objects. Like it's not just a trigonometry problem.
Right.
There's a lot of behavior and more like there's intelligent agents, and you're interacting with intelligent agents, and that's changing dynamically the landscape that you're facing.
Yeah.
So you really end up having to solve a lot bigger portion of the general intelligence AI problem than he originally thought.
Yeah.
And so if you have to do that anyways, like you're gonna solve the vision problem on the way.
Yeah. Wow. How do you think the car's doing so far?
It hasn't made me nervous at all.
Good. I had Alexandra in the car before when I picked her up from the airport earlier today, and she had the same sort of comment. She's like, I wasn't even realizing you weren't driving. You know, it's funny because we're talking about this, right? Like we're talking about this, and then this fucking thing's driving us around. Yeah. It's like it's so weird. It's like so meta. It's such a meta discussion, you know. Yeah, I would be like, I really think the Cruises and the Waymos of the world. The more I think about their solution and my experience with this car, I just really have a hard. And I'm not saying that their solutions are bad. Like I think what they've done is a technological marvel. Like my God, like who am I to say that that's not impressive? They've made this car drive around without a driver in a city, but like the scalability of that solution is so limited. It's so limited, you know.
Did you see James Dauma's interview with Herbert that dropped yesterday or today?
Not yet, no.
It was good. One of the points that James made.
Shout out Herbert.
Herbert is awesome. In fact, we're going to see you in just a few minutes.
What about the interview?
James was saying that the Robo-taxi is such a big field. He's like, basically, you're just getting started on Robo-taxi when you have 10 million vehicles in the world. And that having hardware-capable Robo-taxis is the limiting factor, more so than even the software development. And so even if they're on the wrong software trajectory right now, if Tesla solves it, like they actually kind of have time to copy the Tesla software approach and shoehorn it into a different vehicle form factor and potentially have runway to have a viable business. Now, it's not going to be as good of a business as Tesla's business, and the fact that their vehicles are so much more expensive to produce makes it a much more difficult scaling problem. But that doesn't necessarily mean that their business model is dead or completely non-viable at this point in time, which that was an interesting.
So he's saying that a company could just take the code and just force it into a vehicle.
He didn't make that. He didn't make that point specifically, but based on what this is my.
Your takeaway from what he was saying. Okay.
Yeah, is that if Facebook can create a large language model. I think that one was Llama, and then someone else can open source it and create like an alpaca version in a matter of months.
I see.
And then from there, a couple of weeks for somebody to take that model and quantize it and fit it onto a computer so that it can, like, you can run a ChatGPT 3.0 style chatbot on your laptop, completely disconnected from the internet. It is like almost a distillation of the totality of human knowledge on the internet in the year 2017 or 18.
It's crazy.
Like, if that's possible, then the software community, somebody in the software community, whether it's open source, whether it's closed source, like somebody's going to be able to follow on Tesla's development and produce it's all about the conceptual breakthrough. It's that 0 to 1 thing that's hard. 1 to N is not nearly as difficult, but you still have to have vehicles that have the hardware capability necessary to be able to sense the world, run the code.
Right.
And so that's where things like the comma AI idea are interesting, and like I don't know if that's potentially George's, that he understands that basically he's just got to let Tesla solve the problem,
and then he can
and then he'll hack a copycat solution, and then if they figured out how to take that and package it into essentially a mobile device that they can sell, that they can have a scaled down version of, or like a dumbed down version of FSD that people who drive any car could spend a couple $1,000s, get the device, and then pay the subscription fee to have some sort of an FSD functionality. We'll see. But that's why I think, going back to Elon's saying that long term our advantage is going to be manufacturing, that becomes more important when, like, if you can get more extremely capable from a hardware standpoint and extremely efficient EV vehicles on the road, you can dominate a robo-taxi network based on having
just the scale to make the cars
making the cars that can drive at the highest level. That, you know, I don't think that Elon trusts, that's why he says modes suck. Like, pace of innovation is the only thing that matters. Is that he expects someone to have maybe not the same level of FSD software that Tesla has, but something in the marketplace that gives consumers options.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, so really what it comes down to is once Tesla solves FSD, once they truly have it like finito, like just perfection, the time it's going to take between them having that solution to everyone having that solution that wants the solution, it's probably going to be single-digit years at maximum, right? It's going to be like,
I would think so.
Yeah, like
definitely under a decade.
Yeah. So then whoever can make the solution that would best take that software that everyone's going to have access to, but really make it so that it's a really cool application of that software or something that people really want, is going to be the one that's going to win the most in the marketplace. And so in the case of transportation, you have to sort of navigate around a regulatory body to make sure that the things you're building are safe, right? But then you also have also have to create a use case that people want, right? And so hear you talking through that, like why wouldn't Tesla just go down the path of the airline model? Like, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. Is like,
I think you're probably spot on. That something
just
in the
build the
Gen
shells,
3,
you know?
Yeah, that there will be a vehicle, you know, a hardware box that has all the components that people need, and then, you know, whatever you want to do inside that box is whatever you want to do inside that box. You want to have a mobile barber, you can have,
that's what I'm saying, right?
A mobile massage parlor.
Yeah.
You could do, like, just transportation, a mobile office. Like, I can pick you up and take you to the airport.
Yeah.
And here's your, you know, it's equipped with Starlink and everything. You've got high-speed internet access. You can just sit there and do your thing.
Like, I'm half wondering if the van is that. I'm wondering if the van, like, you know, like that van form factor they show. I wonder if that's really robo-taxi. If that's really like.
Oh, I think it's definitely part of. I think that all of the vehicles will be able to be used, like, just think about the variety, like, every form factor vehicle exists for a reason, and someone is going to be willing to rent out that vehicle of that form factor because it fits an application. Yeah,
but don't you think that van form factor is going to win it all at some point? Because if the cost per mile of that transportation unit, like, is it really going to be that much different between a van and a two-seater? It's probably not, right? It's just the a little bit more electricity you're going to use, but electricity is pennies on the dollar when it in respects, or when you compare it to the actual human labor of driving. And so don't you think one form factor is just going to win it all? Like, the van's going to be 80% of all.
You're probably correct. I think there will be some sort of margin, like, in areas where smaller vehicles make sense.
Yeah, that's fair. Like Europe.
Yeah, you'll need, well, or even, you know, dense city traffic, things like that. You might want a little two-seater that's easy to zip around in traffic and stuff in.
But if everything drives itself, why would a little two-seater matter?
Well, if everything drives itself and everything can coordinate, then that's a different
I just think long term.
Yeah.
Like like 20 years, 30 years. I feel like if we're really going full self-driving future and it becomes real, it's hard for me to not always end up at the place. It's 80% of the things on the road are vans.
Yeah.
Or like a van style, and you can just...
If you get long enough into the future, I think you're probably correct. Because the value is the transportation. The value is not necessarily the vans, pickups, and trucks. Like
hardcore utility. Yeah. Like maximize for the utility, because the cost of that transportation unit is going to be so cheap compared to where we are now. Truly is going to be so cheap. It's literally going to be the cost of powering the thing over the course of
its lifetime.
500,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles. And then once we get to that sustainable future, fully renewable, sustainable future that Elon wants to get us to, with where energy generation is going to be pennies on the dollar. Yep. It costs nothing to move around at that point. So the cost of materials of building a van versus building a compact car
are so negligible.
It's exactly over the course of 1,000,000 miles. So just everything's going to be and Sandy has talked about this too, right? Like Sandy Moreau has talked about Tesla should just do this box. And that's really where the idea came from. It's like the way Sandy talked about that concept.
Yeah, when he was talking about the English taxi.
Yeah. I'm like, why don't you just take that up all the way? Just take it all the way, and if we're all going to be self-driving, it's just wild. It's the bigger thing for me is I don't know how everybody doesn't land on that spot. That's my own ignorance and me being maybe I'm putting too much thought, too much. Too much worth in this one idea,
And they don't even have to be aerodynamic hardly at all if we're also looking at having them zip around in Hyperloop boring tunnels.
Right.
So you could literally just have a cubic box.
With a bullet, with a little round front, you know what I'm saying? It just literally looks like a bullet.
Yeah.
A bullet on wheels, you know what I'm saying? It's just a bullet on wheels, and it's just... Everything's gonna look dull. Maybe you can, put some freaking spray paint on it.
Probably end up looking like a Tesla semi on the front.
Yeah, something like that. So,
yeah.
What do you think of this on the highway?
It's doing great.
Yeah.
Handling all the.
Just gotta get on the right lane now. Come on. There we go. Sometimes it misses this exit because it's. I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
But yeah, it handles all the lane changes and all the traffic. I haven't felt uncomfortable at all.
This is your first experience with FSD?
Absolutely first.
Okay. Better than expected, worse than expected, as expected so far? It's not the most challenging route either, but...
Yeah, I would say as expected based on all the FSD beta videos I've watched.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my routes...
And I'm a fairly aggressive driver myself, so it takes a lot to make me nervous.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been this. It's been this experience day in and day out. I keep talking about how I moved away from, being a driver to just being a supervisor. But that's literally, I no longer consider myself a driver anymore. I'm a supervisor. I'm just letting the system do its thing, and I just make sure that it's not being an absolute moron, and sometimes it is. The one thing I gotta say, the biggest change is that knock on wood, there hasn't been any interventions that were due to safety that I can remember. Maybe one. Not even one. Under this version, I can't think of one situation where I had to take over because it was safety related. All of them were my interventions are, oh, you're not going fast enough. Oh, you're not doing this. Oh, you're not doing that. And then my takeovers are wow, that was such a stupid thing you just did. Why are you in the left lane when you're supposed to be in the right lane, right? I don't feel like going around again. So if there's one big props I want to give the Tesla team is that to me has been the biggest change, is that we're kind of exiting the phase of taking over because I'm scared into taking over because this thing's kind of stupid. And I feel like that's a huge I feel like that's like that 0 to 1 step almost, right? Because now you can have, now I can trust the system.
Yep.
And so now we're in this dangerous phase now, I would say, that's like, I trust the system. And I try my absolute best every day to never be complacent. So I'm always paying attention. I'm never on my phone, even though I'm not driving. I'm just trying to make the driving experience more like, oh, just kind of take it in, you know? You're going to be in the car for 40 minutes. Just take it in, enjoy the time. And then during that time, my head always goes towards, man, what could I be doing in here?
Yeah.
You know, what could I, and that's like, it gets wild. It gets real weird real quick when you really start viewing transportation through that lens. Everything becomes a train, or everything becomes a plane. Everything becomes that sort of experience. And just very excited for the businesses that will pop up around that, because I think there's going to be a lot of new industry that we never thought about before. That's going to sort of you know, come up around that. So
whether it's entertainment or just so many different opportunities.
Yeah, dude. What do you expect tomorrow at the shareholder meeting?
I have not put very much thought into it. I'm kind of expecting it to be like the votes and really humdrum stuff, but at the same time, now that we don't have all the noise in the community about, hey, are they going to unveil this? Hey, are they going to unveil that? That's probably when they'll
come out with the Shell-style robo-taxi. Yep. Be like, hey, guess what? Boom, here you go. We're an airline now, but for cars. So what do you think about the whole thing with Elon going on CNBC the second the meeting is done? Do you think there's something there?
There's obviously something there. The question is, what? I think there's no way that he's potentially stepping down as CEO and bringing other people in, but like the chance is not zero. So I'm very I hope that that's not the news that we hear. We haven't heard Tesla specifically say no, that's not what's happening. Mm-hmm. So obviously it leaves the door open to that as a slight possibility. Mm-hmm. But more likely it's just going to be him talking about so there's really two viable options. It could be him expanding on something that was announced at the shareholder meeting that he wants to get the word out about, or he has been just going on the media tour, and this may be an open spot of time. Like he's already done
he's done BBC, right?
Yep, Tucker, and
he did the Miami conference.
Yeah, it could just be the next thing in that, and not necessarily have any significance tied to the shareholder meeting specifically. But I would say it seems like quite the coincidence. So Yep.
There is you see that tweet where Elon sent an email to all the leadership saying, I need to see everybody that y'all hire. Did you see that? Yeah, so he sent out an email to the team that said, I'm paraphrasing heavily, but I've seen these emails before at Tesla. It's Elon basically saying, I don't know what you guys are doing hiring all these people, but y'all need to freaking stop, and you need to send me all the approvals so I don't know what you guys are doing. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm back, bitches. You know, I kind of love it. I'm back, bitches. And so I'm sure the anxiety levels of the leadership group at Tesla are like, fuck, here we go. Now I'm going to have to do this again. But what's interesting there, so I think Twitter getting a CEO, that announcement after shareholder day, is Elon up for re-election as chairman of the board? That was one of the items. Was that one of the items on the agenda? I can't remember.
I voted on all the platforms. I can't remember
that. Man, I can't remember that. But I do wonder if there's something to be said about JB coming on the board, and then I think maybe we'll get some guidance on maybe some sort of succession planning, perhaps. Maybe they will say, like Zach is going to be interim CEO until maybe like in 3 years time, and then in 3 years time Elon's going to give him the reins, and then Elon's going to shift over to full technology, like just like CTO role, like actual techno king, call him, without the CEO duties, which is something that Elon openly said he doesn't want to do, right? He doesn't want it, like he hates the actual CEO role. I don't know why the speed limit's so low here. And I'm gonna push it up again. And then I wonder if the CNBC announcement is kind of like easing the fears of that. It's like, hey, like this is what's going on. What would be?
I think Gary had said something to that effect, that he expected them to talk about succession planning, but to emphasize that Elon was not stepping down as CEO. And so, it could just be managing, like Elon doing active FUD fighting and like
maybe he's the FUD fighter. He's just going to be like shit posting on Twitter, just like it's like, y'all wanted FUD fighting, here I am. This is the best use of my time. There's a Rivian, by the way. They're sweet. I've been seeing them a lot more in Austin. I see them more than Mach-E's, shockingly enough. And then under that scenario, don't you think that's actually a good thing for the stock? Isn't that what like people like Warren Buffett want? They want stability. They want succession planning. They want no drama. Like, wouldn't you think that sort of announcement would actually be a positive for the story?
Potentially. I don't like it. Doesn't factor in to the calculus for me because it's so small. Like, the question is, are they gonna solve FSD? How's the bot coming? Where's Gen 3? And update me on Tesla Energy. Like, those are the
big ticket items.
The big ticket item. If you want to hold for 10 years, those are the items to keep your eye on. Elon being like, if he's CEO or if he's techno king, like, and is basically just involved in technology, either way, as long as he's not dead and he's involved in the company, I think they're going to make progress on those items. So,
that's the way I think about it too. I think the title is irrelevant to me. Like, in the tweet, he said, I'm going to be more involved with Tesla, right? And that to me sounds like, okay, I don't care what your title is, great. So what I would love for Elon to be more involved with Tesla with is, like, I want him to work on the things that he wants to work on. And to me, that's based on his feedback is technology and none of the admin shit and none of the stuff that he's weak at, like maybe like relationship building with suppliers. I don't know, like whatever, like the CEO stuff that he doesn't like to do, the administrative stuff. If that means no more CEO, but then another role, how is that not a great thing? You know what I'm saying? Is like, I feel like you put your best engineer, I would argue that if there's one thing Elon is a phenomenal at, like the top tier is engineering, have him do the thing he wants to do and then just build a company so that it maximizes his capabilities, and then ultimately that he's the happiest, right? That he's super happy. Oh my God. Hold on a second. How did I run out of space? Anyway, this is recording, so I guess our faces, hold on. That's so lame. I need bigger storage. Okay, I guess we're here anyway. Oh, perfect. So we're not ran out of storage at the perfect time. Okay. All right, so our faces are missing, but we're still here. So I'm going to park the car. And then, okay, so I haven't driven. I haven't driven at all the whole time. So how'd you think it did?
It did great.
Yeah? So is it happening? Do you think full self-driving is happening?
Yeah.
I can't believe my storage is full. That's so lame. It's because I was recording at 4K. Oh. That's why. I have the smallest battery one. Anyway, the audio's from here anyway. So it'll just, our faces will be gone for a little while. Okay. We're going to sign off. We're going to find some parking in beautiful Austin, Texas here. And then we're going to get going. And we'll see you on the next one, everybody. Sorry that the battery ran out or the storage ran out on the phone. I apparently am not smart enough to buy a phone with more storage. So maybe for the next one. All right. Bye, everybody.